Hi guys, and welcome to another Bootstrap 4 video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we're going to continue on with our Bootstrap Basics thing. We just put this About Together page quickly the other day. And we're going to add a little team section to it with some of our sort of team members. So let's get started. If you've been following along, we created this folder. Inside we created our index.html and our about.html, which is the page we're looking at here, and a custom style sheet for our styles, and a folder with some images in it, and there's a logo for the site. In fact, these two images aren't being used at the moment. I'm not going to delete them right now. I might decide to use them at a later date. So let's get started. What we want to do is open our About page, which is this one, with a text editor. So I'm going to right click and open with brackets. And here we are. If you don't have a text editor, Brackets is a completely free text editor. It's got some marvelous features. So you can download it from a link below this video if you need one, but any text editor should do for following along with this video. Okay, well, let's go down to where we left off last time, which was this section here with our mission and our image. Let's create a new section. I'll give this section an ID so we can target it with a bit of CSS, and rather than a class, because I might want to use it as an anchor tag later on to scroll to it, but we'll see. So section, I'm going to give it an ID of team, funnily enough, as it's our team section. Okay, now I want this to be a contained section, so inside here I'm going to put a div with the class of container, so it's not full width. And let's close out the brace on the end of there. There we go. Pop that one down. Okay, let's just get rid of that gap there. Now inside our container, we're going to want to put a row to house our, what I'm going to try and have is 4 little cards. You can do this several little ways. You can do it with the cards, which is a Bootstrap thing, but I'm going to build it from scratch just like with regular HTML. So we're going to have 4 little oblong boxes with an image, a title, a subtitle, and perhaps some social media icons in there. And there'll be, you have CEO, your president, etc., etc., etc. So inside our container, let's build our row. So that's a div, and it has a class equals. I'm sure you know what comes next. Row, yeah. Now within this row, we can have our 4 little team member icons. So I want 4 of them, and if you remember from the last video, I said a full width Bootstrap, whether it's full width or in a container, the whole row is made up of 12 sections. So to make 4 sections out of 12, it's got to be 12 divided by 4, which is 3. So let's make some columns of 3. So I'm going to say div class equals column medium 3. And so we can fit 4 of those into a row, which is what we're looking at here. Obviously we're going to want to add some CSS and what have you. Now inside this, I mean, from experience, you could build them like that and it'll work. But when you try to space them out a bit, if you built 4 little cards like that and then try to put a bit of space between them, the end one would drop off because it would be more of the width of the row. So to counter that, I'm going to put them all within another div with a bit of padding inside it. So I'm going to add another div. Now I'm going to give this a class of what we actually want to call our little team member things. So I'm going to just call it a class of TM for team member. You can call yours what you want, make it unique, make it something you can remember. Okay, so we're going to build our actual team section within here, and I know you can't see much going on because it's simple coding here. But let's start with let's put an image in. So we'll open up and say img and source. Well, we haven't got a source because I haven't got any images yet. So let's get some images going here. So if I go back to our folder, here's the folder we've been putting our images in. I'm going to quickly just grab a couple of people images and put them in there that I can use for my team sections. So there we are. I've put some images in there. There we are. T1, T2, T3, T4, and they're inside our images folder. Images folder. Here's our root folder, which is the root folder. All that means is it's the main folder with all our website files in it, where it all starts, the root. Inside that folder is a folder called image, or img, with our images in it. So we have to target img and the name of the image in there. So it's found the folder img, and once you put that in, or you can type it in, it'll find the files within it. So let's put T1, which was our team member 1, inside there. And all images, like I said before, have to have an alt tag, or should have an alt tag, which describes the actual image. Say Bob Jones or whatever his name is. And as I mentioned before, quite often a lot of people will use this for SEO purposes and put keywords in there, as well as the description, which is fine too if you want to do that. Okay, so we've got his image. We hover over with brackets, it gives you a preview of it. Underneath, we want to give him a title. So let's use some heading text. Let's use a heading 3 and put his name in there, Bob Jones. I guess we'll call him that since we started off with that. And underneath, let's give him a heading 4 of who he is, what he does, his job title, I guess. And what should we call him? CEO / owner. Whatever you want. I'm sure you have team members. I don't, so I'm making this up as I go along. Then underneath that, I want to put some social media icons. And if you've been following along with this, we added Font Awesome to our site the other day, so we could use it in our footer. We could use these social media icons. And if you need to learn how to install Font Awesome on your site, have a look at that video. But I'm just going to steal these, and I'm going to change, well, I'll steal 3 of them. I don't want YouTube, and I'll change that LinkedIn to Instagram to LinkedIn. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's our footer right down here. So I'm just going to steal these. And let's see, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's fine. I'll take those 3. Simply plop them underneath this chap right here. Just line them up a little bit. And you'll notice a little difference with some of these, and it's purely because they've got anchor tags on them. Here's our fonts: FAB Instagram, FA Twitter, and FA Facebook. So I want to change Instagram. I'm going to change that to LinkedIn. I happen to know that's what the LinkedIn icon name is, FA LinkedIn. Go to Font Awesome cheat sheet if you want to find out other names for social media ones. And this one looks different because we've got an anchor tag, which means when you click on it, it's going to take them to my Facebook site. So you want to do the same thing with the rest of them here. Just take the anchor tag. I'm just going to copy this, copy it over, and then there's one right on the end, because when you put an anchor in there, you sort of wrap what it is you want to use as a link within it. So wrapping it, opening anchor tag, closing anchor tag, and what you want to link, the actual thing that's linking, which in this case is the Font Awesome icon, is in between it right there. And of course you don't want these in there, you want your own social media URLs. So I'll just leave that blank and put your own in there. Okay, well that's kind of our basic layout with our HTML here. I think I might want to centralize these because by default everything's going to be aligned left. So I'm going to put the class of text center in our main column right here. So that means everything that's within that, between these two divs, is going to be centered, all the text and the images. So let's save that and see what we got. It's not going to look too exciting, but we will have our first little team member panel. So let's refresh. There we go. There's a handsome Bob Jones there, CEO and owner. And there's our social media icons. So what do we want to do with it? I mean, it's pretty boring. I mean, it works, but it's boring as it is. I think I might have this section with a nice gradient background, a little like this. I'll have our actual team members section with a white background, which is fine. I think let's make his image rounded. An important thing to notice when you want to make an image round, this is a perfectly square image, so we can make it round easily. If you have an oblong one, it's not so easy. You want to start off with a square one if you're intending to make it round, or else you're going to end up with an oval or an eye shaped. And we'll style this. I think we'll make his name the same font as we've got going on with our H2 there. And the CEO owner will use the same font as we're using here. And those icons we want to make a lot bigger and perhaps have a hover effect on them that's more in line with what we have going on here. So let's start. The first thing I'm going to do is deal with the section. I'm going to put a color behind it, like that gradient up there. In fact, I'm going to steal that bit of CSS and use it. So let's go back to our brackets text editor, and our section is called team and it's an ID. So to target it, I need a hashtag. So let's go to our custom CSS, start a new section here, go down to the bottom wherever we left off, / *// and anything you put in between those two stars will not be read as code. And it's great to put titles in your CSS because you can have hundreds and hundreds or thousands of lines of code, and if you've got a little title in there, it just makes it a bit easier for anybody coming behind you to deal with it. So we said it was team, ID of team, and it's an ID, so because it's an ID, hashtag, and then a name, which was team. So open some and close some curly brackets there. And let's give it a background gradient, which we did before. So we'd have to say background image. And then we're going to say linear gradient, like we did before. And then the colors of our gradient, which I'll have to steal from above because I can't remember what they were. And you want to spell stuff right. You see that's red there. When things are red, it usually means you've done something wrong, and I've spelt background wrong. There we go. So whenever you see red, it's usually a good indicator with brackets that you've misspelt something or left something out there. There's a missing element. So let's go up and find our colors. We could probably pick them from here. Let's just go straight up to the gradient and grab them. There it is. That's our blue, and that's our purple. So let's grab both those colors. So it's one color separated by a comma, a space, and the next color. And you can add more colors if you wanted to make a triple gradient. You put a comma behind the last one, add one more. Do experiment because it's you can get some great effects. Okay, So we've done that, our team section. Let's have a look. I think Control S. If you remember, if you've been following along, we created a class earlier on of gap 100, which gave it padding top and bottom of 70 pixels and left and right of 0. So I'm going to use that class in a minute on our section to give it a bit of breathing room, and I'll show you why. Let's save this, Control S. Now when I refresh, our little section here should have that blue-purple gradient. There we go. Now what I was saying before about that gap is what we've used here, so it's given it that gap on the top and that gap on the bottom. Let's put it on this one too, and it'll make it consistent gap-wise. And it was a class of gap 100, so let's go back to our index, sorry, our about.html, and on the team section itself, on the container that's inside it, I'm going to put that gap 100. That'll give it that breathing room there. Control S, back to the site, refresh. There we go. Now we got a bit of breathing room top and bottom. Fantastic. Okay, let's start styling our little team member card here. So what I think I'm going to want to do is give it a white background so it stands out there. Let's do this in a Chrome Inspector here. I'm using Google Chrome browser here, and if you right click and inspect an element, it brings up the Chrome Inspector. Let's roll up so we can see what we're doing. And just click on the element you want, which in this case is the TM, the team member section. What I want to do is I'll write my CSS in here, and as long as you've got Styles tab selected on one side and Elements on the other, you'll have HTML one side and CSS the other side. And you can write in what you want in the CSS here, and once you hit that refresh, it'll go away. So you're not doing anything destructive, you're not making any real changes, you're just making some visual changes. And it's a great way for getting ideas. So team section, I want it to have a white background for a start. Let's say background white. Alright, and I guess we're going to want a bit of padding, so let's say 50 pixels top and bottom, 20 pixels left and right. Let's make it 30. Let's say 50 sounds like too much, so padding, let's say 30 pixels. That'll be top and bottom, and we'll say 20 pixels left and right. There we go, that's got a bit of breathing space there, which is fantastic. What else do we think we want to do with it? Well, let's give it a little bit of box shadow just to make it stand out. I mean, it stands out fine there, but let's give it a little bit of box shadow just for fun. Just makes it stand out even more. Box shadow. And this CSS code I'll put down below, so don't bother trying to copy it while I'm doing along here. I'll put it down below. You're welcome to use it, manipulate it how you want, if it's useful to you. So box shadow, let's say 5 pixels by 5 pixels by 10 pixels. So basically you got top and bottom, left and right, 5 pixels down, 5 pixels right, 10 pixels spread, and then we'll give it a color, which I'll say, gosh, I don't know, something dark, 333. There we go. I hope you can see that all right. It's now got a dark box shadow around it right there. Fantastic. So what I want to do now is copy this bit of code. Control C. And paste it into our style sheet, back to our brackets and our CSS. Now, the section we were working on there was the TM, the team section here. So it's a class, so it's going to be .tm and then the code. So let's go to our custom CSS, down to where we left off, and .tm, because a dot for a class, TM the name of the class. Open and close the curlies, bit of space, paste in that code. Control S, then back to the site. Control S was to save. Let's get rid of the inspector. Alright, refresh, and it should stay exactly the same. Fantastic. So we've got that taken care of. Okay, let's have a look, see. What I want to do is change that square image into a circle. We can do that with a class, a Bootstrap 4 new class called Rounded Circle. So if I go in there to our About HTML here, where's our image? Here we are. Let's give it a class equals, and just put that in there. Give it a space, and in between the two inverted commas there, we're going to give it the class of rounded dash circle. And that should make that image round. Like I said before, if you want a round image, you want to start off with a square one, else you're going to get some strange shapes. Control S to save. Let's go back to the site, refresh. There we go. Old Bob's now round. That's fine. That's kind of what I want there. Okay, let's have a look, see. I actually want to give it a bit more space between his image and that, his name right there. So let's add another Bootstrap class to margin bottom. So here's our image. We've got rounded circles. Let's say, give it a space, M for margin, B from bottom, dash. Well, I guess I'll give it 5, which is the most for this little class here. It goes from 1 to 5, 1 being the smallest, 5 being the largest amount of space. And it's 5 what, you might ask? Well, it's M's, I believe, which is the default font size of your paragraph text, which I think is 16 pixels by default, but you might want to read up on that. But anyway, margins go from 1 to 5, same with padding in this little class here, 5 being the most, 1 being the least. So let's save that, back to the site. Now when I refresh, there should be a bit more space between the image and his name. There we go, that's more like it. Fantastic. Alright, next thing we want to do is let's make our font here the same font family as that one up there. So that was H3 and that's H4. So let's go back to our custom CSS. And we've got a typography section at the top. Let's keep it all tidy and put this in the typography section. So here's our H2 that we styled. Here's our H5. Let's, in fact, I'm going to copy this H2 because it's got just about everything I want there. If we look at it, let's change that to a 3 now, because we're affecting the H3. If we look over here, H3. So the font family we want is the Oswald, fine. Font size, which is a Google font that we pulled in. Have a look at earlier videos if you want to learn how to add Google fonts. Font size, I guess we want to take it about 30 or perhaps less than that, maybe 25 even. Color, well, I'm going to leave it at that blue color. That's going to work fine for me. Text transform, uppercase. Do we want it as capitals? Why not? Not sure I want that margin there. I don't think I do. So let's take that margin off. Delete. Save. Control S. Let's go back to the site. Now his name should be in capitals and in the Oswald font and be a dark blue color. There we go. That's fine. So let's do our, that was H3, so this is H4. Let's do this one. And all I want to do with that one is probably just make it this other font family here. I'll leave size wise, I think it's okay as it is. I might capitalize it. Let's have a look, see. So let's have a look. We've done the H3. Let's make the H4 Raleway, which is the other font. H4. And what I'm going to do is open and close some curlies. And again, I'm going to steal that bit of code right there. So it's the Raleway font family. Again, that was a Google font we put in there. Color is fine. I think I'm going to have it uppercase. So let's add text transform uppercase. Save that and see what we've got there. Control S. Back to the site. Yeah, I think that looks fine. That's okay. Now what I want to do is affect our little social media icons here. Firstly, they're way too small. I want them a lot bigger than that. I think I probably want them a purple color, or purple sort of color. So let's just take care of that. Again, I'm on Chrome. I'm going to right click and inspect this, and we'll do it live and then copy it over. Now let's bring that up so we can see it. So we're going to be targeting, we're actually going to be targeting TM, because it's within our TM section and it's the I class. So we'll be targeting TMI when it comes to our CSS. Alright, so what do we want to happen? Well, color, I want it to be, do I want it to be the blue color or the purple color? I think I want it to be the purple color. So I think that was 731397. Let's try it. 731397. Yep, that looks right. Okay, so that's that purple color. Want it a lot bigger, so we'll say font size. And you might say, well, why don't you just target the font awesomes themselves? Well, because if we do that, it'll change these other font awesomes. So we really want to be specific and just target the ones within our TM section here. Font size, try 50 pixels. That may be too big, I don't know. 50 pixels. Oh, I think that's all right. I think we can fit 3 of those on there quite easily. Okay, and we want a bit more space around it between them, so let's give it a little, say, padding of 5 pixels, and that will give it a padding all around, top, right, bottom and left of 5 pixels. That will give it a bit of breathing room. Alright, I'm quite happy with that. Let's just copy that. Remember, we said we need to target the TM section, TMI. It's class.tm space I, and then put in our code. So let's do that. Back to our custom style sheet, back down to the bottom again. There's that class above of TM, so we need to target .tm, and within that we need to target the icon or the I class. So I, open and close some curly brackets, bit of space in between, paste the code we just copied from our browser, save that, Control S, go back to the site, get rid of that inspector. Now when I refresh, the other 2 should turn purple as well, and it should spread out. There we go, and that's fine. We're about done with this now. Let's just give them a hover effect, so when we hover over them, they change color to indicate that you can be interactive with them. So let's go back to our custom CSS. I'm going to copy this whole thing. Well, actually, I don't need the whole thing, but I've got it now anyway. So let's drop down. And after the I, no gap, colon, full colon, and then no gap, and then hover, H-O-V-E-R. And we can create a hover effect. Now we've got our purple there, which is that 731397. So let's make the hover effect this blue color here. And I'm not changing the font size or the padding, so I can delete those. That's what I meant earlier, was I don't need it all. Okay, Control S to save. Let's go back to the site. Let's refresh. There we go. And now when I hover over those social media icons, they should change to that blue color. There we go. Oh, I could have done it the other way around so they were blue, but I think that's fine. So now we've got that one in place. I'm kind of happy with that. Let's just repeat, or rinse and repeat as they say, with our other 3 characters we've got here. I guess we'll make up some names for them. So let's go back to our about us.html. Okay, so we want to grab our whole thing, which is this column right here, from opening column to closing, opening column div to closing column div, and let's copy this. So there's 4 of them. Control C, drop down, there's 1, drop down, that's number 3, and there's number 4. Let's change our names, and let's see, T2, which I believe is a lady. Okay. And let's make her president. Obviously you put her social media in there. Next one, let's make that T3, which is the different names of our images here. If you remember, I had 4 images, T1, 2, 3 and 4. That's what I'm doing, is changing the names here. Okay, T3, and that was a lady, I believe. No, it's a fella. Okay. Now let's make him Chief Technical Officer, CTO. And one more, last one, which is a lady. Okay. And let's make her finance. And obviously put her socials in there. So let's save this, Control S, back to the site, refresh. There we go. There we have our 4 little team members. I guess we could put a heading in there of team. So let's do that. Let's put a title in there of team. So let's go back to our HTML, and we're going to want to put it, here's our section. Here's our container with the gap. So I want to put it underneath there. So I'm just going to put a div with a class of text center. Text center. Close out that div, and inside there let's put a title. We'll use our H2, which at the moment's got that blue color. I think we had a light version of it, didn't we? Yes, I think we did. So let's just put in a title of H2. It's going to be that blue color by default, but I think if I give it a class, we created a class for a light one. So let's see. Pretty sure, let's save that, Control S. I want to look into my custom CSS here. And I'm pretty sure I created a class for a white H2. I think it was .h2w. There it is right there. So what I'm going to do, if we look at that, tells it it's the font family, but it's a white version of our regular H2. So let's go back to where we were, our heading. We'll give this a class of H2W, which should automatically turn it white for us and stand out well on that background. So let's save this, Control S. Let's go back to the site, refresh. There we go. We've got a nice little white title right there. All right, well, there's our little team member section. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, share, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're interested in web development, take a look down below. We've got some great free web development courses down there, as well as some premium courses with some huge discounts for our YouTube subscribers, so do check it out. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.